The fact that you started out as, this passionate hockey player, and we're in Quebec, and hockey is a religion in Quebec, and you are also still a singer, but also an artist, like to perform in front of lots of people, and that was together at the same time. So in the same years you were pushing it in hockey, trying to get to the highest level possible. You were also pushing it as an artist, trying to get to the highest level possible. And now
I turned 50 in January. I've had, quite a hectic life with sports and arts and music and lots of traveling. And in the last couple of years, my life changed with triathlon and the scout for the NCAA, National College Athletic Association from Massachusetts, saw me play. Paul Kariya made me the player I became. It's impossible to reach, you can't play in the NHL and be an international rock star at the same time.
I think that's what's most inspiring to people, seeing somebody like you who couldn't even walk to the train station and now is getting ready to do an Ironman.
Spaghetti carbonara.
Good day, folks. This is Pierre Zwartman, and I'm with
Christian Sbrocca.
Sbrocca, and here we're on the Brik, where we secure our triathlon, your triathlon journey. Dominic is not here because he's been brought up to the big leagues.
The big leagues.
The big show. The show.
Avec Joe Rogan.
Yeah, the show. The baseball show.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, the majors, because Dominic he was in one of those in-house or in the employee baseball game, between the guys and the girls, and there was a big scout that saw him and said, "Hey, we need Dominic Deschaines."
That's amazing.
With the Pittsburgh Pirates. No, he couldn't be with us today, so it's going to be me and Christian.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great, actually. I haven't felt this way in a long time. We've talked about that in the last couple of weeks. I turned 50 in January. I've had, quite a hectic life with sports and arts and music and lots of traveling, and banged up my body pretty well. And then in the last couple of years, my life changed with triathlon, and in the last few months, it's gone to another level. I've been taking care of my body more than I've ever had, and I eat better, I sleep better, I'm more disciplined, and physically, mentally, and spiritually, for some reason, I'm in a very, very interesting position. I've never been so happy, and never been so at peace, and I've never felt so. I've never felt like I was at the right place, right time, as much as I am right now.
Fantastic. That's great.
You
look good.
Thank you.
You look good. I know that you were in Dominican Republic, and one of your friends hadn't seen you in a long time.
Yeah.
And said, what did he say?
Yeah, well, there's a couple friends, actually. I've had this comment a couple times in the last few months. Some of my friends that haven't seen me in a while, I've seen a difference not only in my body, in my composure, I think, also in my dans mon non-verbal. I have a tendency to be very passionate and very intense, and I'm loud, and for some reason I'm quieter and more composed, and some people have noticed that. I think it's about, it's a mix of everything. I think it's, I definitely spend a lot of energy working out. So the other energy that I have left is there for me to heal and to get ready for the next workout, and to mentally be sharp, because I have a business that is exploding, has been doing very well in the last couple of years. So, and I'm still in the art industry, so I always have to be sharp, and I always have to create. So when I'm not working out, I'm creating. So I need to be sharp 24/7.
Well, speaking of being in fit and sharpness and the whole, performance part, the reason I really wanted you to be on our podcast is because of obviously your recent link to triathlon, but the fact that you started out as, this passionate hockey player, and we're in Quebec, and hockey is a religion in Quebec, and you are also still a singer, but also an artist, like to perform in front of lots of people, and that was together at the same time. So in the same years you were pushing it in hockey and trying to get to the highest level possible, you were also pushing it as an artist, trying to get to the highest level possible. And now you've put away the hockey part, and now you're in triathlon, which is also another sport, individual sport.
Yep.
That's kind of different. We'd like to talk about that. And you're making movies, you're making publicity, you're making advertisement,
inspirational videos.
So you still got that artist sports together. And before, also talk about, first of all, how did you get into sport? Was hockey your first sport?
Yeah, it was. My mom's from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. She's a typical French Canadian. My father's an immigrant from Rome, Italy. So he's an Italian. He arrived in Montreal in '66. So he had no idea about hockey, nothing. So my mother got us into hockey when I was 3. I started skating, and by the time I was 3.5, 4 years old, my mother noticed that I was comfortable on skates, and that's something special. And then it went really, really fast from then on. So I skipped a year, went straight to a novice, and then skipped another year and went to Adams. So I went through the ranks of minor hockey with a stigma of being one of those guys that had something special, and that was a lot of pressure when I was young. So I drew crowds, and people were talking about this, and so at a young age, I started dreaming about playing in the NHL, obviously. So Wayne was my role model.
You wanted to be like Wayne Gretzky?
Well, kind of, yeah. I wanted to be Wayne. I skated like Wayne. I tucked my shirt in like Wayne, and everything was about Wayne. And it's funny because I hated Mario when I was a teenager, but today I realize how good Mario is, and I can't believe all the bad things I said about Mario. But anyways, that's another story. And then for a little while, I completely got off the radar. So by the time I was 12 to about 16 years old, I stopped growing. I became very slow. I had no strength. I had no shot. So compared to the other guys that had their puberty and started being men and being strong and fast. And in the 90s, in order to play major juniors, you needed to be strong, you needed to be big, and I was the complete opposite. Not only was I small, but I was slow and I was weak, which doesn't work really well in the 90s hockey. So my dreams faded away. And at that time, music got into it. I started, playing guitars at parties, and I noticed that I was getting attention, and it was fun, and my friends always wanted me to bring the guitar, and that was cool. But then something happened when I was 17 years old. I played in a game out of nowhere here in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, and a scout from the NCAA, National College Athletic Association from Massachusetts, saw me play. And a few months later, they offered me a full scholarship to play Division I hockey in Massachusetts. So that completely changed my life. And technically, I wasn't really ready to go there, but they needed a left-handed player on the power play to feed their best player on the power play that was a right-handed player for a one-timer. Kind of like right place, right time. And it changed my life. So from that day on, they took care of me on and off the ice, and then I completely exploded. So all my dreams of hockey became back to reality. I turned around. I was the slowest guy in the league when I arrived to UMass Lowell. And a few years later, I was probably the fastest guy in the league, or at least one of the fastest guys in the league. And then I got back into the radar. Scouts were talking about me and the whole thing. And I was doing well, scoring points, getting on the all-star teams and all that. And boom. And then I discovered this band called Oasis.
Oh.
I discovered the song Wonderwall, 1993, 1994. I'm in the car on the way to practice. And it hit me so hard and it's hard for me to explain what happened, but when I came back to the campus that night, all I was thinking about was that song. So the very next day on the way to practice, I was flicking stations hoping to get that song back again on the radio. Today was gonna be the day. And then I figured out that it was Oasis, and I fell in love with Oasis, which opened up a whole new door of possibility. Then I got into the grunge music and Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Cranberries, Live, and all those bands. So when hockey became very, very, very important, where I needed to put all my eggs in the same basket, music came in and swept everything off my feet. So that's when both careers ended up being front, line, and sinker at the same time. So that was fun for me, but it wasn't fun for the scouts. It wasn't fun for my coaches because I was, doing well on the ice. But then after games, I would like pack bars downtown Lowell or downtown Boston, a few hundred people on a Tuesday night, and then a few hundred people on a Friday night after games and lineups and stuff. And it became like a buzz. And I enjoyed that very much, but I went to bed late. I did some crazy stuff, and that's where, the whole exaggeration came into place. Alcohol, drugs,
I'd like to slow down a little bit.
So
sorry. Let's get back to, first of all, we'll definitely get back to all the partying and all that. But and the balance, what I like is was there a balance between, being an artist and being a hockey player? Because right now we can tell that you were conflicted between, I want to do this, which is great, which is getting me attention, and I also want to do this, which I love, which has always been my passion, which was the hockey. You got recruited.
Yes.
What's that like when somebody tells you, okay, now we want you to, like when you thought that it was over, and somebody says, okay, we want you to come over, and you weren't like just going next door to Drummondville. No. You were leaving home, living somewhere else, going to America.
Yeah.
Did you speak any English at that time?
A little bit.
A little bit of English. Is that like, oh yes, I'm going right away, or is it what's that like?
First of all, my parents were very, very, very proud because there was education involved in all this. It wasn't just about hockey; it was about getting a degree. 4 years of college hockey. I was getting a business administration bachelor's degree doing that.
Because we're talking about University of Massachusetts,
University
right?
of Massachusetts, Lowell. It's about 30 minutes north from Boston, okay? It was very exciting. I was very, very proud because the team I was playing in, I actually played for Dawson College that year. The year that I got recruited, it was like an in-between, in-limbo year that made no sense. The year before, I played midget AAA for Montreal Bourassa. From midget AAA, most guys get drafted major juniors.
Yeah.
Not only did I not get drafted, I did not get invited by major junior teams. I was completely off the radar.
Really?
So that summer, I had no place to go. I didn't know where to go. Midget AA, junior A, I had no idea. And then the phone rang. Someone said, listen, we're building a team with a lot of guys from midget AAA, and we're trying to get that team to play against JV teams in the U.S. We're going to go do some tournaments in New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, and we're going to try to get you guys to get scholarships. Are you in? I'm like, of course I'm in. I have no place to go. So I went there, and out of nowhere, on a bad game, we won 7-0, but I barely touched the puck that game. But on the power play, I ended up doing well, and that's when the guys saw me. So I was very, very proud, very exciting, and that got me back into loving hockey because between the age of 11, 12 to 17, I had this love and hate relationship with the game. I was walking into locker rooms and guys out loud. I mean, we think about peer pressure today and we think about intimidation factors today on Instagram and Snapchat. I was walking into locker rooms when I was 13, 14, and I can hear guys saying, look at Sbrocca. He used to be good. He sucks today. He won't do anything. He won't make the team. He'll be one of the...
They made sure that
they made sure I heard it.
This was other players?
Other players, yeah.
Did it also come from coaches?
Kind of, yeah. Because I used to be one of those guys that was making a difference that everybody was talking about. And I ended up being the guy that didn't make the difference.
How did that play on your mindset?
It was terrible. I lost confidence. I mean, it was terrible at school. I mean, I was going to school on one of the first programmes de sport-études hockey at Édouard Montpetit à Rosemont. It was terrible. I mean, I could hear the guys saying that I became like more than an ordinary player. I mean, I still had skills. I could still see the game very well, but I couldn't do anything anymore because I had lost confidence. I had lost speed. I had no shot. I was weak. I went to the midget AAA training camp. I was 5'4.5", maybe 5'5", and I weighed 120 pounds. And we rode 5'8", 145, but that was far from being true. I had no shot. I could barely take a slap shot from the blue line with the puck up in the air into the net. I was a kid playing against men.
Why didn't you quit?
Because I loved the game so much, and I don't know. I just felt like at one time maybe something was going to turn around, and I was always one of those guys that really liked challenges. And for some reason, I felt like maybe something one day was going to happen, and it did. So, and we'll talk about triathlon later on about that. And I always felt like if the door opens and you're mentally ready, make sure you put your foot in there and make sure it never closes again.
Oh.
And that's how I felt. So when that guy...
You took it as an opportunity.
I took it as an opportunity. And the coach that coached me at Dawson, Jean Saint-Pierre, which I really respect, I really like, and he's still alive today, he thought I wasn't ready to play Division I. He thought I wasn't ready to be leaving Dawson to go play Division I. He thought I needed 1, 2, 3 years because most guys were freshmen, rookies at 20. I was 17 at Dawson. And he thought I wasn't ready. I'm the first guy at Dawson College to sign in the NCAA Division I hockey. So he was very concerned and very surprised when I got the scholarship, but he was also very happy for me. That was the whole reason about putting that team together. And I think UMass Lowell were very excited about having me. I don't think that they knew that I thought that I was off the radar. I thought that they saw something that I had forgotten about.
So something that they could see, but that you didn't know you had.
That I had forgotten I had. Yeah.
And so then what's that like? Somebody tells you, hey, we want you now.
Oh, man, it's unbelievable. And they made me feel very special. They took care of me. They took care of the language barrier very well. And they took care of my family when my family came down because my older brother came to maybe 50 games in the 4 years I was there. My father came pretty much every weekend he could, slept in the dorms where I was at the campus. I mean, we had this very, very tight relationship with my family and the team. And it was, probably the best 4 years of my life. The 4 years at UMass Lowell changed the rest of my life. It just brought me back to life. It gave me confidence like you wouldn't believe. And
Did that confidence leak into the artistry part?
Of course it did. Of course it did. Because on the ice, I was doing really well. I did well as a rookie. I did really well as a sophomore. That's the second year.
Yeah.
I did really well as a junior. And then I was on the All-Star team. Almost made All-American when I was on my fourth year. But we went to the national championship my second and fourth year. I played with and against a bunch of players who played in the NHL. Paul Correa, Jay Pandolfo, Chris Drury. My goalie was Dwayne Rollison, played 13 years in the NHL as a goalie. Chris Therian, who played for Philly. I mean, Mike Greer, the black guy who's now the general manager for, I think, Tampa Bay, or I'm not sure. Yeah. But I mean,
well, Paul Correa was a superstar with the Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks. And that's the thing. So, and I want to parenthèse.
Yeah.
I was always a big Gretzky fan. And then Gretzky, as much as he helped me become the player that I was, Paul Correa made me the player I became.
Because you looked, I mean, as far as stature, height, weight, Paul Correa and you are not that different.
No, not that different. So I was looking at Wayne and the way Wayne was skating and Wayne was slowing the game down his way. He was a lefty too. And he was so good, and it was amazing. And then my rookie year at UMass Lowell, this other guy that everybody's talking about, probably the best 17-year-old player in the world. I'm one of those pretty good guys, but he's considered to be the best 17-year-old in the world. And his name's Paul Correa. He plays for the University of Maine. Jim Montgomery, who's the coach with the Boston Bruins right now, is his center. It's got the Ferraro brothers are playing there. And then Mike Dunham, Gart Snow are both goaltenders. I mean, they won the national championship that year. That team was so good, but Paul Correa was so far ahead from anybody else. He was so far ahead that he reminds me of a Connor McDavid today, but that was 25 years ago. Okay. And when I saw him play for the first time, I realized that I needed to stop looking at Wayne and start looking at Paul Correa.
He was
he was my new role model, but how crazy is it to have a role model that's your age?
Yeah.
That's pretty humbling. And I remember him in an interview saying, the guy was asking him, how come you can have that speed? And how do you get that speed with the puck, with and without the puck? And he said, it's because I tell my legs to keep moving. Remember when we talked about that?
Yes, I remember that.
And then in the interview, I'm like,
it
what do you mean?
It sounds so stupid and simple.
What do you mean? I tell my legs to keep moving.
What do you mean? What's the technique? I mean, what's the technique? What do I need to think about? No, you just tell me.
You just tell your legs to move. And then I went home that night. I went to the campus, and I'm like, okay, he's telling his legs to move. So every stride is a different information, and then the other stride is another information, and then the other one, and then the next stride, and the next stride, and the next stride. So every stride is a whole new set of information given to a part of your body.
All right.
The very next day, I improved 25% of my speed.
You got better.
25%. Everybody was like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
That was all because of an interview that I saw with Paul Correa. Yeah. So my college career just kind of went boom at that time.
You see, what's really interesting in that is a lot of athletes, they'll be listening to, podcasts, and they'll be watching other athletes. And then something that you see somebody else do, and it's obvious that you could learn from that. But people just go, "Oh, look what he did."
Yeah.
And
they don't imitate.
They don't attach it to themselves, because they say, "Oh, well, he's much better or she's much better, so
I'll leave it to her or him."
It's hers. But that's really not the way to go.
No.
And especially when you learn something that's so simple, it seems that it's not possible, because the people who have really a lot of talent, sometimes they can't explain in technical ways what they do. Like they would ask Gretzky, how do you do it? I said, well, I just see the game.
Yeah.
He was known for seeing the whole game
ahead of time.
Well, I just know that the guy's going to be there when I pass the puck.
Yeah.
And he's there, and people would just explain that as just pure talent. But all that, it can be learned, but you have to believe that you can learn it.
Of course.
So improving by 25%, what did that do after? Did it improve your confidence?
Of course. My stats went up. My ice time went up. The respect that I got from my teammates, the scouts, the other players, the other coaches, and my own coaches just went up through the roof.
So they started believing you.
They already believed in me, but they believed in me even more. I mean, I went from a small, light player who only played finesse to an animal. I started crushing people. I was coming in at so much speed that my body transfer and my strength, I was working out like an animal. They had like me working weights on and off the ice. I mean, it was ridiculous. And when I came back home in the summer, my friends and the gym where I used to work out thought that I was taking steroids. For years,
they thought you were cheating.
They thought I was cheating for years. Even in a few years ago, a friend of mine who worked for the Canadians asked me a very, very simple question. He's like, Christian, please be honest with me. Did you take juice in the 90s when you were at UMass Lowell? My brother asked me that question when we were hunting 2 years ago. I went from a frail, small player to a very strong, powerful, but my bones were still small, but I got much bigger. Yeah. But I came in at such speed with a good body transfer that my forte was not only to create opportunities offensively, it was to hurt people. I was crushing guys.
Yeah, because you had like a lot of penalty minutes.
Yeah,
I was reading your stats.
Crushing guys.
And you're 191 penalty minutes per year.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but you're number one in penalty minutes in your club.
Yeah.
And
I think I'm second in the history of UMass Lowell.
Which is crazy.
Crazy.
It's
you
crazy.
Wouldn't think that from a finesse player, but I went from a finesse player to a little rat.
Oh.
But I could hit too.
Okay.
I came in so fast. I mean, what do you do? Like power and strength, when you put them together, if you come in with speed, it changes everything.
Speed and power.
Speed and power. If you put speed and power together, I mean, it does some damage. And I wasn't big. I was 175 pounds, but I was really, really strong. Did all kinds of squats and deadlifts. And I was coming in so fast. And at the last second, I would explode into a player. But then shoulder to the head was allowed. And it was not only just allowed, it was respected. And it was like, it was praised because it was a clean hit, shoulder to the head. So I've created, a lot of damage and hurt a lot of guys. Today I regret, but that was part of the game back then. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, but I did hurt some people.
What intrigues me is the part that, you became like this confidence person.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you were gaining speed, you were gaining power, and then you gained confidence. And why did, with all this confidence and, first year, second year, and this huge buildup, why did that stop there? And the artistry part, did one cover the other?
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, hockey's my first love, and then music became my passion. And I think passion is stronger than love.
Passion is stronger than love.
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, it hit me so hard that it's kind of like a calling. I felt like God had given me this calling of, doing something different on a spiritual level and to touch people through music rather than, to be one of those gladiators in modern times and score goals in front of people. I thought that I had a task. I thought I had a job to do as an artist, to write songs and to go and touch people one by one around the world. And I needed to do that, and I needed to get it done.
And you couldn't do that with hockey?
It's impossible to reach, you can't play in the NHL and be an international rock star at the same time. You just can't do that. And I did that for too long, and it hurt both sides. It hurt my hockey career, and it also slowed down my musical career, because instead of just putting all my efforts into one basket, I was spreading myself thin in every sense of the word. I mean, I was tiring myself physically, mentally, spiritually, going to bed late, partying, doing well on the ice, but never recuperating that well because I was, doing all these stuff after games. And
did you ever try to convince yourself to drop one to just do the other?
It's a great question, but I just couldn't do it because I was so passionate about both. I was still passionate about hockey, and still, you're on full scholarship. You can't just let it go like that. And that started in college, obviously, but I kept doing it professionally afterwards.
Did you finish your degree?
I did finish my degree.
Oh.
I didn't get my degree after my fourth year because I got an accident to skate. So that slowed me down. So I had to get my degree a couple of years after I actually left school with summer classes. I turned professional right after I left UMass Lowell. So the Nordiques had left Quebec, and then a team from the IHL, the International Hockey League, came into Quebec City to take their spot dans le Colisée. They signed me as a free agent. But that year, I got an invitation to go to the St. Louis Blues training camp. And my agent at the time told me, no, you shouldn't go to the Blues training camp. They're just going to give you a jersey. I think you should sign as a free agent with Quebec. Big mistake. I was in super shape. I was an animal back then. I should have gone to the training camp. I might have turned eyes around, and I might have done something that would have kept me in the minors for a few years, and maybe I would have, but then remember, we're talking 1997, 1998, 99, things were different. Smaller players. It wasn't the same thing. Old rules. The new rules about no hooking started in 2005. So it was a different game. So maybe it would have never happened, but who knows? So I went on and signed as a free agent in the IHL. And as I'm making the team, because I crushed the training camp, I finished number one in off-ice training. I push-ups, sit-ups, skates, sprints. I finished number one in all the categories. They told me I was making the team. My roommate was Glenn Metropolitan, who also played for the Montreal Canadiens for a bunch of years. Became one of my good friends. The first thing I told the general manager, after he said, Christian, congratulations, you made the team. The first thing I told him was that I was looking forward to playing in bars. I mean, how ridiculous is that? But I had no bad intentions. I just told him that it was great for the team chemistry because I had felt it. I had done it at UMass Lowell. The whole team would come. The fans would come. We had this bonding after games, and we won hockey games, and we won championships together. So I thought that it would be a great idea to tell a general manager of a pro team that I'm going to go sing in bars for the team chemistry. And the guy said to himself, is this guy crazy? He's talking about...
So you weren't thinking about the bars to say, I'm going to play hockey because that's my job and my passion is my bars. You were thinking the bars singing was going to get the team members together.
Yes.
It's going to be good for team building.
Yes. And I swear to God, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But that was a big mistake.
Because?
Red flag. The guy was like, he's not serious. The guy wants to just sing, and he doesn't want to be a hockey player.
So he didn't see it the way you saw it.
Of course he didn't.
I wonder if he had, if that it would have worked.
It could have done something. The team went 0-5 to begin with. I was playing well. The team went 0-5. So the first thing they did is they pulled the plug and they sent 3 rookies down in the minors, including me, Metropolitan, and Dave Barazino, a guy that played with me at UMass Lowell. So we were sent down in the East Coast Hockey League, and then all hell broke loose.
Because they sent you down
in the East
thinking
Coast.
This guy's not serious.
Not serious. But he's going to go and do some damage in the East Coast, and we're going to call him back throughout the year, and which they did. But it was the first year. It was the first year that Pensacola, Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico, had a professional hockey team. Mind me, it was an East Coast Hockey League team, but still, they had an 8,000-seat arena. It was sold out every game for the entire year. When we made the playoffs at 5, 6 a.m., they had a lineup that it was sold out like an hour after.
So you never went back to that team?
They called me back 3-4 times during the year.
Okay.
Yeah, they called me back 3-4 times for injuries. I went back to Quebec, went back on the road in Grand Rapids. I played 6 games in the IHL. Like the IHL is kind of like the AHL. But while I was in Florida, I went crazy. I went crazy with music. I went crazy with going,
drugs.
I just girls, the whole thing. It was all there laid out for me. It was just a very strange world, a very strange position to be in. So if you've never been in that position, you don't understand how it happens and how easy it becomes and the power that it gives you. It's a fake power. It's all ego, but it's true. And it does happen. So when it happens to you in your lifetime, it could be a good thing to at least experience it. And I did. And I did to the fullest, and I went all in.
Because people judge that. I mean, most people will look at that, right? And they'll say, oh, this person, he thinks he's a superstar, and now he thinks that, he can do anything he wants. But the thing is that you can actually almost do anything you want when you have that kind of, it feels like like power.
Yes, it's fake power, but it's ego, but I'll give you an example. I'll give you 2 examples really fast. I'm driving, I'm speeding, I'm renting a car in Florida, and the cop hates hockey players because the hockey team took over the city. They took over the bars, the girls. I mean, everybody, the newspaper, the TV stations, everybody's talking about hockey players. And that cop in particular hates hockey players. So he puts the handcuffs. And because of that, I miss curfew. So I come in, the curfew was at 1 o'clock. I come in at 1:05. There's 19 messages on my answering machine. My coach called me like 18 times, and he knows that I was always borderline. Christian, where are you? Christian, call me back. Christian, where are you? It's Al Peterson. Al Peterson played also for the Bruins. So at 1:07, I'm like, Al, I just got in. I just got pulled over. Talk to you in the morning. Boom. And he hangs up the phone. So I go into practice. I feel like shit. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to get fined like $500. So I finish practice, and after practice, there's a cop in the hallway that wants to talk to me. And he's like, Christian, the Pensacola captain wants to talk to you in his office. And it was very serious. And they were all mad at me. So my coach, the general manager were there. So I take my car, I drive. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I wait. I'm at the police station. And they're like, Christian Sbrocca, captain wants to see you. So I walk in. I sit down. He comes in, closes the door. He sits down. He looks at me. He's like, hey, Christian, can you sign this for my girl, for my daughter? And can you sign this one for me? And it started like this. And we talked about hockey and music for about 20 minutes. And then 5 minutes, towards the end, he's like, all right, the guy that gave you the ticket last night, he hates hockey players. So now what we're trying to do is we're trying to prove that the machine was broken, but he doesn't want to sign up for it. He doesn't want to forfeit the ticket. But what we're going to do is that, so they ended up proving or making it sound like the radar was broken. So they got me off the ticket because of that.
So that you could play.
And the other guy said, if you do that, I quit my job. And the guy quit.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Another story, the guy that invested in my hockey career. So I'm playing in Pensacola in the East Coast, and it's like a gong show. Like, people are crazy about hockey. And after games, I sing in bars. I go at the radio station, TK 101, and for every goal and every assist, I get to sing a song on the radio. So if I do 2 goals, 1 assist, the very next day, I sing 3 songs on the radio.
Which you want.
Yeah, of course, because that brings more people to the bars, more money, more fun, more parties. It was just the whole. So 2 years later, I come and I have to tell you this one first. I'm driving 4 guys to a practice. Okay, so we went to bed at like 5 a.m. We have to be at the gym at 7 a.m. We went to bed at 5. We're obviously a little. It's my responsibility to wake everybody up. I miss it. Alarm doesn't go off. I go crazy. I knock at everybody's door. It's 6:32. We're going to be late for sure. And I'm driving like Jacques Villeneuve, and I'm driving boom, boom, boom. And I'm cutting this old lady, and a cop catches me and tells me to pull over in a parking lot. She comes in, and I'm not proud of this, but this is real story, all right? This is true story. And she comes into the parking lot, and she gets out of the car, and she's like, he almost killed me. He almost killed me. And he's like, ma'am, get back into your car. I'll take care of it. Son, you're going to jail. Driver's license registration, please. So I'm like, oh my God. I smell like booze. My friends are all hammered. I give him my registration driver's license. He's like, Christian Sbrocca, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to be late for gym. He's like, hurry up. Come on, let's go. And I saw him wave goodbye while I was driving to practice. He was apologizing.
It's like the movies.
It's like the movies.
It's like the movies. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not.
It's not real. So
Yeah.
it gives you a false sense of power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have a bunch of other ones. But
But so you're becoming this guy who sings in bars, who's got pretty good. Did you get any record contracts and stuff like that?
So the thing is after my year in Pensacola, I went to play in Italy. So I could go to Germany, France, or Italy. So since my father's Italian, I said, I'm going to go back to Italy, learn how to properly speak Italian. Because my father had spoken to me Italian my whole life, but I had never answered back in Italian.
Okay, well, how did you get from Florida to Italy to go?
Well,
play
I
hockey?
finished my first professional hockey season in Florida, back and forth with Quebec.
Yeah.
But after the hockey season, in the summer, I had offers. I had offers in Germany, I had offers in Italy, and I had offers in France. I mean, I could have kept going in the AHL, IHL, and all that. But music was so strong that I knew that I needed to go to Europe to get it over with and then move on to music. So you were asking me earlier if at one point a decision was going to be made. So my decision was quite clear at that time. I needed to quit hockey in order to sign a record deal because I felt like I had an album to write. So I went into the Italian Alps, lived by myself in the mountains, and wrote my first album called My Script in 1998. So when I came back after that year, I presented those songs to a multi-millionaire businessman from Pensacola, where I had played hockey the year before. He loved it, and he financed the album. He became my executive producer. So I recorded the album in Laval and Montreal, and then I went on tour the following year. So I was done. Hockey was done. after only 2 pro seasons. So the album My Script started like a Beatlemania type thing. Everybody knew me in Pensacola. It went crazy, but lack of experience, lack of funds. It went crazy for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then boom, 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 it died. So all the pressure was on me. My other musicians went back to their thing. The managers and the producers went back to their thing, but I was the one who didn't make the American dream happen. I mean, everybody back in Montreal thought that for sure with that album, I was going to go and conquer the US. But it doesn't work like that. It's a lot more complicated. You need more structure. You need more strategy. You need a whole, a big team to make it happen. And we didn't have that. So that was very, 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 very difficult for me.
This is funny because it's exactly what happened to you when you were a young hockey player, where people are saying, oh, he thought he was good. Or maybe even you probably thought you were going to be big. And all of a sudden they're whispering, he's a failure again. Yeah. Is this happening again?
Yeah. It was tough. I 24,
and again, you decide not to quit.
I decided not to quit, but it took me, this time it was a lot harder. I know now that's in 1999, 2000. I know now that it was a nervous breakdown. I went through depression, but I couldn't put my fingers on it. And I didn't know what it was. And
nobody knew.
Nobody knew back then.
It was a burnout, like a burnout.
It was a burnout. Okay. It was a burnout. All the pressure. The guy had invested $275,000 US in 1999, which was quite a bit of money. Mm-hmm. And it went big. I mean, you're going to see some footage. You might be playing some footage right now, and it went crazy. And you would think that after having that success in the first few weeks, first few months, it would go crazy and not stop. But that's not the way it works. So it was very difficult for me, and I felt responsible. I felt responsible for not making it happen.
So now you weren't responsible only for yourself.
No, because I had brought musicians with me, managers with me, band gears with me, technicians with me, sound engineers with me, and the guy that invested money that lost that money too.
So it was the first time in your life that you were responsible for other people.
Of course. And that was tough.
That weighed on you.
That big time weighed on me. But no one knew that I went through a burnout because I couldn't really put my fingers on it. And it was like this manly ego thing. I couldn't really go and say, listen, Pierre, I need help. I mean, I can't breathe. I wake up in the morning. I'm depressed. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to pick up the phone. I don't want to answer a text. There's nothing I want to do. I didn't open my guitar case for 3 years after that.
Really?
Really.
And during that time where you were doing your album and all that, were you still, so you'd stop hockey? Were you still exercising? Were you still doing?
Not really. I another mistake that when I was working on the thing, I started playing in the La Ligue Semi-Pro du Québec, La Ligue Nord-Américaine avec les Chiefs de Laval. I was making some good money under the table, so I was playing hockey but not working out. Hockey was always close, it was, if I was lacking funds, I would go back to hockey, even though it was Ligue Semi-Pro, they were still paying pretty well. So that gave me the opportunity to do both. But while I was doing both, I wasn't doing one thing right. And that lasted for a long time. So every time I needed to go back to hockey was always an option. So when I decided to go back and do my first French album in 2003, 3 years after I came back from Florida, from touring in the States, I had decided again to quit hockey. For sure. I'm like, I'm done.
Okay.
And then the album, that was probably the album that got the most success. I wrote the theme song of a movie called Elles étaient cinq that, turned out to be the theme song in hundreds of maisons de femmes, violence conjugale, narcotiques anonymes, et some of those songs, Loud du Bonheur, changed a lot of people's lives. And that's when the first emails started coming in. Because in 99, I hadn't never lived through the emails and the chats and all that. And that's when the first, suicide notes came in. Like, I was going to commit suicide. And then I heard your song on the radio. I stopped on the side of the road. And then I started crying, and your song changed my life. So that happened once, twice, 3 times, 10, 20, 100 times. So I'm like, all right, the calling that I thought was, when I heard that first calling when I was playing hockey, and I knew that there was something I needed to do through music, that's it. That's it right there. So I kept on going. And then the album kind of exploded, and then the buzz was unbelievable. And then roof again, it dropped right back down in 2005, 2006. So what did I do? I went back to hockey.
Oh.
And then I left
for the
third time. And then I went back to Austria. Yeah. My mind wasn't into hockey. My mind wasn't into music. My mind was only there to try to make some money to come back and pay some debts. So
how old were you at that time?
I was 34 years old.
34 years old.
Yeah.
34 years old is a time in our lives as men that we think that we should be at the top of our, ambitions and career level.
Yeah.
I remember when I started coaching, I thought that at around between 35 and 40, I would be, at the top coaching the Olympics.
Yeah.
That I would be at the highest part of my career. And, sometimes with, life happens and it's not like that. How do you go from realizing that you're not going to get to the point where you were supposed to be, because that's probably what you felt.
Yes, of course.
And going to the next part of your life?
Well, I through reading books, through meditation, through realizing that I wasn't the most important thing on earth, that life was going to keep going and the planet was going to keep going around. And that's when I started giving myself less importance. And I realized that I was just part of the whole process. And then I started writing songs again. And the whole process of writing songs was not, it was, for the first time in my life, I was actually writing songs to heal me. And that really changed everything, because while I was healing myself, when I released that album, I saw what it did to others. So
that's really interesting, because you were saying that because when you were singing, you were getting the high of people giving you attention.
That was when I was singing covers, when I was singing Oasis.
You're getting the attention, getting the
False
cheers from the crowds, and now you were doing the same thing, which was writing songs and singing, but you were doing it for yourself.
I was doing it for myself, but at the same time, it was a gift from me to them, because the songs were so personal, that so personal that everybody could identify to those songs. So I wrote songs about depression. I wrote songs about, loving, it's hard to explain. When you're in the middle of a mental breakdown or a burnout, and the only thing that makes you happy is, a sip of coffee, little things like that. And I would find the most magical things into the little things in life. And I used to be fueled by crowds and cheers, and I wasn't fueled by that anymore. I was fueled with walking in the middle of the forest and hearing birds and hearing just the wind going through leaves and branches. And that's how I really started writing music. I call it introspective. And that changed my life. And that started changing people's lives too. And it changed people's lives in France and Belgium. And it ended up, sending me to Japan as well on tour. So there's a difference between, when music came into my life, and this is very important, when music came into my life, it hit me hard. And it took the focus off hockey. It did that. But I never wanted to be popular.
Oh.
That never occurred to me. I wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to do good. I wanted to change the world my way, with songs, through songs. And I had found that way. That started with my script, followed up with Le Balafré, and then L'Opinion des Autres was the first album where I really sat down. It took me like 2-3 years to write that album that I'm very, very proud of. They're not albums that exploded commercially, but there's things in there that are precious to me. And I know that some of those songs have done their work of changing people's lives. And if you can do that with just one person, something, I think I did the right thing,
It sounds like everything has gone from doing stuff for like a lot of people or touching a lot of people and getting the attention to doing things for yourself
Yes.
and helping others while you're doing it.
Yes.
So it seems natural for you to go to an individual sport because my whole life I've done team sports.
Yes.
And I like team sports because there's nothing like winning a championship.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, there's nothing beats winning a championship. No. So you celebrate that together as a team.
Yes.
But there's also nothing like doing something, pushing yourself to your own limit without the help of others.
Yes.
Kind of thing. So it sounds like triathlon or individual sports went together now with this new career, which is, doing the movies. And how does sport now, has it become part of your life, and what part of your life does it take?
First of all, if we go back to my hockey career, it obviously left some scars, not only just, stitches, but it left a lot of scars like broken bones and torn ligaments and all kinds of stuff. And for quite a while, I didn't do anything. I mean, I couldn't do any sports. I couldn't walk. I couldn't, I remember being in France and I was on tour with this girl called Gabriella. And I couldn't walk from one train station to the other. I was 44 years old. And she said, Christian, it's so sad. And you're 44 years old, you're an ex-professional athlete, and you can't walk from one station to the other, one train station to the other. What are you going to do when you're 60, 70? And that hurt me. It didn't hurt me. I wasn't upset. I wasn't pissed at her. I was just like, and obviously I had told myself that many, many times. I had seen chiros and I had seen physios and I had seen naturopath and a bunch of, and everybody gave up on me because I'm such a basket case. And so when I came back, my friend Pierre and Hugo had done a few triathlons and he said, why don't you try it, running? I'm like, I can't. My back, my knee, my seat, my thing. And it was true. Yeah, but why didn't I can't. And then he gave me a programme fractionné, just, walk and run, walk, run. And I started doing that. And then one day led to another, and then a few minutes of walking, a few minutes of running. And then, 3 months later, I ran 5K without being, too banged up. And then Pierre gave me a bike. And then triathlon became kind of my salvation because by myself, I was doing things that I had never thought it would be possible for me. Because when I retired from hockey, I thought that I was going to grow old, crippled. Like that I would have a terrible quality of life for the rest of my life.
Sports
would
over. Never be part of your life.
Yeah, because I got like reconstructive surgery. I can't move my right wrist anymore. I had my right elbow redone and my shoulder. So my entire body is like kind of l'homme de $6 million man, but I'm not worth that. So it's both knees were torn, both feet were broken and torn. So I had a spondylolisthesis in my lower back and all kinds of arthrosis, which makes it impossible for me technically to do triathlons. So if you had told me 6 years ago that not only would I do a sprint triathlon or then like an Olympic or an Ironman 70.3, I would have been like, you're crazy. It can't happen. But it did. So I used triathlon and workout as salvation, again, like meditation. I feel like I'm creating movies in my head every time I'm in the water, every time I'm running, every time I'm on a bike. I create a new chapter of my life. Kind of like Korea was telling his legs to move. When I'm running and I'm biking, I create new realities every single second, every movement that I make is a new reality for me, and that's how I see it.
Does any of your creation from your movies and your inspirational videos come while you're training?
Almost all of them.
See, that's really interesting because hockey and singing was really separate.
Yes.
And you were trying to do them both at the same time, but you couldn't.
Yes.
And now you're making inspirational videos, movies, publicity, and you're doing your sport. And now it's all together in one yin yang kind of thing.
Yeah, but I also have to be disciplined because, and now we're going to get to that, but the first time someone told me about an Ironman was in 2003. When he said the word Ironman, I'm like, what's an Ironman? And he told me the distances. And I didn't believe him. I told him to F off. He's like, no, it's 3.8K and then 180 and marathon. I'm like, no, it can't be done. He's like, yeah, I do them. So for like 15 years, not only was it out of reach, it was completely impossible. So now that I'm actually working out towards my first Ironman, I have to change my lifestyle. Like since January 1st, at 44 years old, when Gabriella and friends told me that I couldn't walk from one station to the other, one train station to the other, I told myself that at 50, I'd be in the best shape of my life, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm 50 now. So since January 1st, I changed my life. So I have to wake up early in the morning to get those workouts in there. So either it's swimming, biking, or running. Most of them are really early in the morning, and that kicks in like crazy. My mind is so sharp and so fueled with oxygen that when I have meetings, creation meeting with my partner or a team of creators, I've never been so fast. And it's not about speed. It's about, I've never been so fast in turning things around and like when I'm on the bike, I told you that earlier, but I want to be sure you understand that. I listen to music and I can listen to ballads when I work out. I can run at 4:25 pace and listen to Charles Aznavour or Alexandra Streliski or classical music. I'm probably the only guy in the world who listens to classical music or ballads when he's doing high tempo workouts. So I'm always creating scenes and movie scenes. So that inspires me and fuels me to create what I do today. And triathlon has a lot to do with the way my brain works today.
I mean, it's amazing to see that someone went from such a, violent, a sport to go towards professional, to that really hurts your body.
Yes.
And now you've gotten to something that helps your body.
Yes.
And has healed your body in a way.
In a way, I'm still hurting my body a little bit because it's pretty banged up. So I have to pace myself. We have to be careful with intervals. We have to be careful with the speed I use. We have to be careful with a lot of things. But I feel better now than I felt last year.
Well, the difference between...
And 2 years ago and 3 years ago.
The difference between the program that you do and the program that most other triathletes do who don't have all these body problems like you have, is that the program is made so that your body decides what kind of intensity you're going to give.
Yes, you're right.
It's less the program that decides, and it's more you that decides.
Yes.
Which makes complete sense.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, really enjoying it. You can tell us what you're...
Okay, well, let's do part 2, but yeah. We're at 55 minutes.
Okay, so we got a few minutes left.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay. What I want to get into, we're finishing off this podcast, but what's been interesting to me...
I'm going to
back.
be
What's been interesting to me the whole time is that you have almost, I would say, 2 lives. You've had your first part of your life where one sport and your artistry were in conflict, and now you have your second life where the sport and your artistry is now together. Say you don't. I know that you're supposed to be doing Chattanooga Ironman. Say you don't do that Ironman for whatever reason. Is what you're doing now enough?
It's more than enough. It's a life changer. Yeah. I spend a lot of time by myself crying when I work out. I am very emotional. I cry when I run. I cry when I ride the bike. I see myself in the best position as a father, as a friend, as a human being, as a business partner, as a creator. I've never felt so good about who I am as an individual, and it has a lot to do with triathlon. So whether or not the Ironman happens, I feel fortunate to have been able to go through all this, and I think I've beat the odds. And I'll keep beating the odds because it's fun to beat the odds. It's fun to be the underdog. I love being the underdog. And I asked myself, or I asked God, I don't know who I asked, but I asked the question last week and I was waiting for the answer. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing it? And the answer came right back. It was spread in two. It said, because you can. And because you can, in this way, you can gain back time where you didn't take care of your body, when you treated your body like shit, when instead of giving it love, you gave it hurt, and you made it age in the wrong way, and you didn't respect your body. And today you're respecting your body. So it's gang du temps. You're making up for the time that you wasted. But everything happens for a reason. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the true reason? He's like, it's to show your son that it's possible to do the impossible. And if that's the only thing you can show him that. So I'm excited. If Chattanooga doesn't happen this year, it might happen next year. And if it doesn't happen next year, it might happen the following year. I don't care. I was not born to do an Ironman. I'm not natural in swimming. I'm not natural in biking. I'm not that good of a runner, but I have discipline, and I don't quit. I don't know what it is to quit. That's how I played hockey. I don't quit in anything I do. So if one day I cross the finish line and I hear my name, it won't be because I'm good at it. It's because I dedicated myself to it.
What seems to be the underlying truth of what you've done is that you've created a lifestyle. It seems that you've put the sport of triathlon or swimming, biking, and running part of all that. Gives you energy, makes you feel good, helps your creativity. What is really interesting with what I do as a coach is seeing people reach their potential, because people always say, oh, aren't you happy? Your athletes reach their objective, they beat their time. And I always say yes, but really that's not the most important thing for me as a coach. The most important thing to me as a coach is seeing that person change, become a person with energy, a person that's happy. And I think that's what I see with you in the last few years. We've known each other for maybe 3 years, 4 years, not that long. But in that short time, I've seen you gone from I would say a cripple, somebody who just had this body that didn't want to respond. You were always going 3 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And the last year and a half, there's been this slow build, which has been really great to see. And, we're not even talking about your new career, which is making movies. Your movies, your inspirational stuff is out of this world. We're going to link it in our podcast, but the stuff that we see, it's supposed to be a commercial for a poutine place, but it's so it makes you laugh. It makes you, it inspires you. And the stuff you're doing for hockey now, these new companies, it's just amazing. It's stories, your ability to storytell is really, really inspiring. And that's what I like about talking to, normal, everyday people who have become these athletes, who have these careers, and you see these well-rounded people. And I think that's what's most inspiring to people, seeing somebody like you who couldn't even walk to the train station and now is getting ready to do an Ironman, which seems ridiculous and impossible, right?
I know. I know.
I mean, the first time I saw that was on TV in 1982, and this girl was crossing the finish line, Julie Moss, on her on her hands and knees, and my mother at the time was watching it at the same time, and she says, "Oh, that's crazy," you know. And I saw it, and I said, "I have to do that," because if you can get to that level of quitting and still not quit, that's like, you have to do that kind of stuff.
It's crazy.
It's been really great to have you as a guest. It's I think it's going to be one of our most popular episodes, really, because people are going to listen and say, "Oh my God, this is so interesting." And I know that we have to do a part 2 because you have so many interesting stories.
Yes.
I'd really like to talk about your second part of your career, but we have a tradition.
Yeah.
The last guest
Yes.
has a question.
Yes.
So this guest has a question for you.
Okay.
And, if you're ready to answer, we didn't prep Christian for this.
Okay.
So what is your pre-race meal? And what is your post-race meal?
Well, we're going to have to ask Mélanie Mata because we're doing everything different this year.
Really? So there's not going to be your famous, because Christian makes this famous, I mean, I've tasted it and tears went to my eyes. It was your
Melanzane.
carbonara.
Yeah. No, spaghetti a carbonara, linguine carbonara.
Say it, please.
Yeah, and my father's from Rome, and then I learned the real way to do it, and I'm crazy about food. You know that. That's another passion
So
of
say
mine.
the recipe again.
Spaghetti carbonara.
Well, okay. So if you have a chance to taste this stuff, I mean, I actually tasted it, and
You almost cried. Yeah.
Tears to my eyes. It was
crazy.
so good. It was the most delicious thing that I had ever tasted.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, and it comes from you. So another amazing thing that you can
all right.
do. So that wouldn't be your pre-race meal?
Why not? It's got eggs. It's got pecorino cheese, which is not too.
It's got the protein.
Yeah, it's got the protein. All right, let's put it in there. I'll ask Mélanie. But my post Ironman
Yeah.
would probably be a pizza, margherita pizza that I do in my wooden oven.
I've actually had the chance to taste that. It takes 1.5 minutes.
Yeah,
to cook.
a minute sometimes, depending
and you
on
put the cheese,
mozzarella di bufala.
bufala. Just hearing this guy talk Italian. Yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah, Cal was with us. It was a great evening.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have a nutritionist working with you.
I did have a nutritionist in the last 2 70.3s I did, but she was involved only in the 2 weeks prior to the competition.
Okay.
Now I want something for the next 3 months.
So you don't know what your pre-race meal is going to be yet.
I don't know what it
the
is yet.
after is going to be definitely the
Yeah, but I'll write it to you so I can answer the question correctly.
All right. So, would you have a question that you would have for our next guest?
When you're working out for an Ironman, let's say that you're running, I don't know, like a 17K run, and that, we have some good days, we have some bad days, and that's a very, very, very bad day. You have no energy, you have no gas at all. What makes you keep going and not quit?
I love it. I love that question. What would you answer?
Oh, that's a hard one. Probably would say just the what you get from finishing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you get from finishing it.
What's going to be the after? During a race, this thing happens.
Yes, of course.
People get to a point where they want to quit.
Yeah.
And when they want to quit, I'm often there at the same time because it happens usually towards the end of the
30?
race. Well, yeah, last, so either the last 20K,
Yeah.
where they're going on an out and back, or last 10K.
That's terrible.
And I say, what excuse are you going to say to the people waiting for you at the finish line? What's the excuse they're going to say?
Yeah.
And if you can say something that they'll
Believe?
understand and they'll believe, then fine. If you can't find it, then keep going. Keep walking until you find that answer. I've loved this. Thank you very much. And it's been great. Christian.
How's your finger?
My finger's okay. I've got a couple of weeks to go
Okay.
before I can surf.
Thanks for
And
inviting me. I appreciate
thank you.
that.
And to our listeners, what would Dominic say? Stay fit.
Waste all of our lives, suffocate all of our lives, holding on to watering cans, sacrifice who had a plan. We've got nowhere else to hide. Tell me, love, where could we meet? Halfway there sounds good to me. Finding out how strong we are and figure out all we could be. Life is amazing and full of beautiful unexpected surprises.